Hello everyone, today I will be presenting an ancient recipe, more specifically an ancient Roman dessert. This dessert is called Dulcia Piperata or honey cake, and it can be found in the Pica's cookbook Delle Cocinara, or on the subject of cooking, which is actually the oldest surviving cookbook in the West. I unfortunately cannot make the cake because I'm lacking some ingredients, so I will present the recipe to you instead. This video will be divided into two sections. First, I will talk about the history of honey cakes, and then I will tell you the ingredients that you can use to bake this cake. Some historical facts. First off, libum means cake in Latin, and libare means to offer to the gods. Thus, honey cakes were used as sacrificial offerings to household spirits in the early years of Roman history. Other times it was used as a farmhouse cake, served hot, and in other instances it was a delicate honeyed cake served at the very end of an elaborate Roman dinner. So Dulcia Piperata, which literally translates to peppered sweet, would have been used either as an offering or as a delicate dessert, but the latter seems the most plausible. This is because this cake can be seen on a 1st century BCE mosaic found in the imperial Villa Poppaea or Villa Oplontis, situated just 3 miles from Pompeii, a holiday house apparently owned by Emperor Nero himself, and it is believed to have been used by his second wife, Poppaea Sabina, hence the name, and this would have been her main residence when she was not in Rome. And the first pyroclastic surge, or volcanic eruption, the same one that killed the residents of Herculaneum, also engulfed the Oplontis villa, but no human remains have ever been found there, so it is assumed that the residents had fled the eruption of Mount Vesuvius, or that the villa was uninhabited at the time. Now onto the ingredients. Spelt and semolina were the most common grains used for flour in ancient Rome, although flour from rye and oats were also found. Soldiers and plebeians would have eaten bread made from barley or perhaps acorn flour. The ancient Romans did have white wheat flour, but it was only available to the very wealthy. This recipe also uses pine nuts, also known as pignoli or the piña nut, and it is one of the most expensive ingredients in the world today, thanks to the amount of time needed to cultivate the nuts and the amount of effort required to extract the pine nut from the tight embrace of its double shell. The modern adaptation of this recipe uses baking soda. Soda, or sodium bicarbonate, was used by the ancient Egyptians for nearly 3,000 years before the recipes in the Pica's were written down, but they used it primarily for treating wounds, preserving meat, and as a cleaning agent. The leavened breads and cakes were made from natural yeasts like sourdough starter, but of course today, for ease of use, we use baking powder and soda as leaveners. So how should we actually make this recipe? Well, blogger Crystal King actually mixed two of Apicius' recipe, Dulcia Piperata and Aliter Dulcia, to make the best ancient honey cake recipe. Here are her ingredients: 2 cups of flour, 2½ teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1½ teaspoon of salt, 3 teaspoons of coriander, 3 teaspoons of pepper, 2 eggs, 1 egg yolk, 1 cup of olive oil, 1 cup and 5 additional tablespoons of honey, 1/4 cup of sweet white wine, 2 tablespoons of raw pine nuts, but since they are expensive, I would suggest skipping them because you might not like the taste, 3 tablespoons of chopped raw almonds, and 2 tablespoons of chopped toasted hazelnuts. Here is how to prepare it. Place a rack in the middle of the oven, which was preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Then grease and flour a 9-inch cake pan. For ease of removal, you can also add parchment paper to the bottom of the pan, but make sure to grease and flour the sides. Then, in a large bowl, whisk together the flour, the baking powder, the baking soda, the salt, and the spices. In another large bowl, whisk the 2 eggs and the 1 egg yolk really well. Then whisk in the oil, the 1 cup of honey, and the wine until well combined. Whisk together all the ingredients until smooth. Mix in the pine nuts and almonds. Finally, pour the batter into the pan and bake until spongy to the touch and a cake tester comes out clean, so about 45 to 50 minutes. Then, transfer the pan to a wire rack to cool. Let rest for 20 minutes. Unmold the cake, heat 5 tablespoons of honey, mix with roasted hazelnuts and drizzle it over the cake. Let cool completely before serving. The cake is best eaten the same day but will keep if covered at room temperature for up to 2 days. If more sweetness is desired, drizzle a little more honey on each slice before eating. This concludes my video on Dulcia Piperata, a Pompeii recipe from over 2000 years ago. Thank you for watching and have a good one.